Hey guys, how's it going? Coming at you with another long-term overdue video on the Somogear PEQ-15 clone. Just a disclaimer out front, this isn't a video for night vision newbies, or if you're not very familiar with it. If you don't know what terms are like civilian power versus what a full power laser unit is, you're going to need to do some more research and come back and check out this video because I'm not going to be explaining basic concepts like this in this video. This is for people that are kind of more familiar with night vision and have done a lot of research before deciding to dive in. So with that disclaimer out of the way, what is it? Well, Somogear PEQ-15 is a Chinese PEQ-15 clone with the full suite of features, which is a visible red laser, or green if you want to get it with that, an IR laser, and a laser illuminator, all full power, and it's sold as an airsoft device. Somogear doesn't market it for real steel firearms and explicitly say it's only for airsoft use. This is possibly to skirt some ITAR regulation or something, or maybe just so that people don't complain when it doesn't hold zero and then send it back. Not sure what their motive there is there. However, it's intended and marketed towards airsofters. Quick tangent, if you are an airsofter, please do not buy this. These are iris melting lasers that have no business being on any airsoft field where there's force on force. And if you melt someone's vision with an IR laser, you're going to destroy that person's life. So stick to the cheaper Chinese clones. And honestly, even if you're using night vision, don't use these lasers because you're going to blind someone. Anyway, that out of the way, these Somogear lasers have been reported from several people to hold zero pretty well under real steel firearms. So I decided to test it myself. However, I'm kind of late to this, even though I've had this for over a year. I've been delayed so much in putting out this video that Brass Facts already put out a video about it. So what this video is going to show is just my data points from what I experienced with my 2 units of the Somogear PEQ-15. So first off, let's just go over the externals of the Somogear PEQ-15. Honestly, it's pretty impressive coming from a Chinese clone. It's very accurate looking, which is good for people that are trying to reproduce that look of the PEQ-15. There's an O-ring for the battery compartment to keep out any moisture. I probably wouldn't trust this to be waterproof to any extent. The laser adjustment screws are pretty clicky, which is good because that shows you that they're going to hold zero, or it should. The laser illuminator focused is smooth but not too loose. The illuminator cover is not a diffuser, unfortunately, like it is on the real PEQ-15. Now this would be useful because the Somogear PEQ-15 laser illuminator doesn't have a very wide beam pattern compared to, let's say, my D-Ball A2. So I've heard that the new versions will have a wider beam throw. However, both of mine were pretty dang small, especially at closer ranges. It'd be hard to get it more than like 2 feet wide. Now, if you're going out farther for distance, that wouldn't be such of a big of a deal. Now, if you had a diffuser cover that you could slide over like on the actual PEQ-15, that might help and widen up the beam pattern. So that might be something I try in the future. Similar to the illuminator cover, the cover for both of the aiming lasers is just a straight up cover. It isn't an ND filter or neutral density filter like you can get for the actual PEQ-15 made by L3. Now, my theory is that this would be helpful to tone down the laser enough so that you can use it in dual high power mode, and you can use the powerful illuminator while also using that ND filter to tone down the aiming laser so you don't get massive bloom with the laser. However, you can use a wide, high-power illuminator at the same time. So it would be helpful, maybe. We'll see if I get to test out that theory, but it might be helpful to invest in one of those in the future and put it on this. So I'll let you know in the future if I try and go that route. So from this point, I'll go ahead and dive into the 2 negative experiences I had with the Somogear units. So first off, I zeroed the laser no problem and was using it. However, when I tried to match the illuminator to cover where the aiming laser was, my elevation knob for the illuminator got stuck. And no matter how hard I tried to turn it, I would not be able to move that elevation. And the laser was not being covered by the illuminator. So this made it impossible to use both of them simultaneously, because when I would point the illuminator at something, I could very clearly see what was being illuminated by the illuminator, but a couple feet to the right, or a foot or so to the right, was the aiming laser, and the perfect picture I had in the illuminator would blow out the darkness and then the random laser that was being shown by the aiming laser. So basically, effectively, I couldn't use them both. This seems to be a relatively common issue because they actually have a troubleshooting guide for this issue on their webpage. Now, I tried that troubleshooting guide and it still didn't work. So I contacted Somogear, I took a video of it, and they told me to send it back. So I sent it back and they sent me a new one. A relatively nice and painless process, especially considering that they are a Chinese company. And you might think that because they're a Chinese company, they would have terrible customer service and completely blow you off. But that's totally not the case with Somogear. It wasn't long before they had returned me a new unit, and I was able to conduct testing on this unit as well as my previous one. Now, the new unit, I was able to move the illuminators. However, I will say both on my old unit and on my new unit, the illuminator adjustment knobs are really hard to turn, which, you may look at as a good thing, but I guess eventually that's what led to my unit locking up. The last issue that I've encountered with the Somogear PEQ-15s has actually been the crane port. Now, unfortunately, it was working great right up until I got ready to make this video, and for some reason, the crane port is no longer working with any of my tape switches. Not really sure what happened, so I guess I'm going to reach back out to Somogear customer service, and I'll let you guys know how that goes. Next, I'll go ahead and show you guys how I tested the co-alignment of the IR and the visible laser to see how close they are when switching between the two different modes. Okay, so for this test right here, I am testing the co-alignment of the Somogear PEQ-15, and honestly, not terrible for what I thought. So there is shift. So what I did right here is I set up the rifle, turned the vis laser on always. I went down there, marked where it was showing on the target, came back here, didn't touch the rifle at all, and just switched it over to the IR mode, and then came and marked it on the target down here. And the shift ended up only being around, I would say, like 5 inches or so. It's kind of hard to tell when you use the IR because, once it hits the target, it's splashing so much that it's hard to pin down an exact point using the, night vision. So I just kind of marked an X where like it was splashing in general. So it's kind of hard to tell right here, bear with me. So this was the vis laser right here. It was like right around here. You can see all those X's, and then up here's where I marked where the IR laser was hitting. So I'd say we were at about, let's see, where was I at? Over by those pile of rocks. I think that's about 50 yards, honestly. And it was about 5 inches shift, or I don't know if I'd even call that 5 inches. I'd say maybe 4. Testing the second unit, I did pretty much the same exact test. However, I did it much closer. Instead of at 50 yards, I was at 36 feet, and pretty much same results. I only had a 1 centimeter shift from the IR laser to the vis laser. Now, what does this mean? It just means that, you can use the vis laser to get you close on target. However, if you're going to be using it as an IR aiming laser, I would zero the laser using the IR laser and not the vis laser, and just assuming, that they're both perfectly co-aligned, because they aren't. So I would treat it as if it's, the vis laser gets you close, but then the IR laser is actually what you need to zero. So now, to answer the question that everyone wants to know is, did it hold zero? Well, my Somogear PEQ-15, the first one I had, I zeroed it and I put around 500 rounds through it. And after that, I was still able to hit man-sized targets pretty easily at 100 yards. I didn't do a precision zero to see if it held at the end of the time, but it did honestly all I needed it to do. For my second Somogear PEQ-15 unit that I received, I didn't have the time or access to shoot, so I did a hasty test and I strapped it to an airsoft gun and beat the heck out of it with a water bottle 704 tactical style to simulate recoil. This actually probably simulated much more recoil than you would actually get by firing a 5.56 through an AR-15. So I do also want to note that I don't have the potted version. What potting is a service Somogear has started offering to fill the unit with an epoxy or some sort of substance for about $10. And this is to keep the circuit board from having like potential pieces break off from recoil. When I bought mine, they didn't actually offer the potting service. So for this indoor test at 36 feet, I zeroed the visible laser to intersect with my iron sights on the airsoft gun. And then I just beat the heck out of the muzzle with the water bottle. I marked the shift, beat it again with the water bottle. And then on the third time, I decided to actually start hitting the PEQ unit itself. So after the first beating, the laser shifted about 0.5 centimeter to the right. After the second, it shifted about 2 centimeters up. And then after the third time, it only from there shifted about 0.5 centimeter back to the left and then a little bit more up. Now, these shifts might not look significant at 36 feet. However, they might translate to more noticeable shifts at farther distances. Now, this doesn't mean you won't still be able to hit man-sized targets, because I definitely was able to do that with my first one. But there might be some variance. Now, it's hard to tell if this shift might have also been due to, let's say, the PEQ-15 just moving around on the rail for me hitting it, or it could be that the rail itself is moving. You know, aiming lasers aren't known as being the most accurate things in the first place, so there's a lot of variables there. Now, time for conclusions. Who is this unit for? Personally, coming from someone who has enough extra cash to throw down on a $1,600 full power D-ball, I would not recommend using one of these as your primary active night vision aiming solution. However, I also know the life of balling on a budget. I once tried to start a series on my YouTube channel called Tactical Peasant, back when my only source of income was mowing lawns. I still remember those days, and even though nowadays I can afford decent gear like PVS-14s, I went through the trouble of making a video on and showing people how to assemble their own Gen 3 night vision for under $1,000, because I know what it's like to be, balling on a budget. So the Somogear is only a little over $200, and it is by far the most economical solution, and it blows a lot of commercial options out of the water when it comes to power level for a fraction of the cost. It's $100 cheaper than a Streamlight VIR2, $400 cheaper than a Holosun LS321. So if that's your world and you need to buy something on a budget, let's say you built your own night vision and picked it up for around $1,700 or so, and you want some sort of option that will let you plink around in the dark and might even let you shoot zombies, in the extremely unlikelihood that you, 1, are in WROL, 2, need to employ a weapon in that situation, and 3, and finally, you need to do it while you have nods. Yeah, I would say that's an extremely small chance. So I would say knock yourself out if you're in that situation. Maybe buy it and leave the door open to upgrading in the future. Now, if you have a little bit more disposable income like me, I'm going to end up using this for a 22 AR-15 build that I have for plinking at night, or maybe popping it on a loaner rifle for my friends to use. If you made it this far into the video, I just want to say thank you for watching. Also, huge shout out to all of those people who have subscribed. A couple videos ago when I made my P365 video, I said, hey, please subscribe so I can get back up to 1,000 subscribers so I can get my YouTube partnership back. And you guys blew it out of the water. So that video ended up getting 120,000 views as of right now, and I'm starting to approach not 1,000 subscribers, but almost 3,000 subscribers. So I really want to thank you guys for that and let you guys know that I appreciate it. Sorry that the videos I promised have been kind of slow going. I have a lot of good ideas, or at least a decent chunk, and I want to make videos about them. However, with my job this year, I've just been traveling so much and I haven't had the time or access to do a lot of the filming and testing I've wanted to do. But I should have more time to do that kind of stuff in the future, coming this next year for 2023. Anyway, if you guys have any questions on the Somogear, thoughts, or any ways I can improve for future videos, please let me know down in the comments, and I'll see you next time.